And so the reason why, at least I think, we don't have that moral standard and safety right now is because people in the church itself has become silent. We've removed ourselves from society. So as strong, spirit-filled believers, knowing, the kind of church that we go to that preaches on being active, what's your guys' stance on how Christians can not only vote, but what else can we do to ensure that that standard of biblical morality is being upheld, like in your neighborhood, in the schools, and just in this nation as a whole?
Yeah. I think number one, making sure you're either going to a church that speaks about what's going on in the culture and speaks biblically about it, takes a stand. And if you're not going to a church that does that, maybe you don't have a church close to you that has those standards, be that person that goes to the pastor and not in a rude or judgmental way, but challenge them. And just ask, okay, I'm watching this on the news, I'm seeing this going on. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that in our small group? Can we talk about that maybe from the pulpit? Because I feel like a lot of pastors are pandering to their what they think their congregation wants or doesn't want to hear. And so I feel like if we as Christians begin to lovingly challenge our pastors and our leadership that isn't speaking out about this stuff, then that will kind of open that door, give them permission, oh, my congregation does want to hear about this. Let's start talking about it. So that's kind of number one, it grows from the church, I feel like. And then getting outside of the four walls of the church. So once you have that community inside the church, and it doesn't have to, take weeks and months and years to build that up, but once you have, just a few people, get out of the four walls and go to shelters, go to the streets, go to your neighbors, have barbecues at your houses and invite your neighbors over, and talk about things and be open to hearing from people, because people can be passionate about the left side, but as you talk to people more, I feel like more of us have more in common. I know that's kind of cheesy, but I feel like we really do as human beings have more in common than what the media makes us feel like. So anyway, just not being afraid to talk to your pastors, to people in your church, and then getting outside of the four walls.
One thing that I feel like is really important right now, especially in this election, because I believe that is one of the number one arguments in this election, is Christians and people of faith, we need to walk out that faith. And we need to understand that the biggest hot button in this election is abortion. And we as Christians need to walk out that faith. And we need to know and understand that you cannot have it both ways. We cannot say, oh, well, we believe in pro-life, but there's no but. There is absolutely no but. We are pro-life. We are for babies being born. You've made that decision to bring that life into the world, and you can't go back on that. And whether everyone on that side wants to say oh well, it's her body and her choice, and that is the big hot button slogan. That baby in your womb is not your body. That is something that I think goes unthought and unspoken, but that baby is not your life to determine, to make that decision for. Yeah. Who's to say that baby wouldn't have wanted to be born? And I just think so many people like to put an asterisk next to it and say, well, what if this scenario, what if that scenario? In our faith, we are pro-life. We are pro-children and the next generation. And if we just think it's okay to just do away with the next generation before they're born, there won't be a next generation. And where does it stop? Yeah. And I think it's just important to walk out that faith. Get rid of the hypothetical, but this, but that. No. Yeah. There is no but scenario that is okay. And we need to believe and speak out. And as Christians, we need to make sure that we are outspoken and let people who are on the fence about it, who claim to be Christians and claim to have a strong faith, let them know there is no questioning it. We have to be outspoken pro-life, and that is a huge decision. And if we don't stop it this this time, and if this election goes sideways and it's not stopped here, where does it end? And that's what scares me. So I hope everyone gets out there and votes the right way.
Okay, so last question pertaining to all those things. Those are really good points that you guys brought up about getting involved, being active, but also making sure that your yes is your yes and your no is your no. One thing I want to point out, folks, is we've got to understand the difference between pro-life and anti-abortion. Right now, you have a really vague, like a very vague movement right now where people are claiming to be pro-life, but then they just want to regulate abortion underneath. No, we are anti-abortion, and we are 100% for life from conception, no exceptions. And so that's something we want to make, and that's something we really need to work on as believers in terms of just increasing in our boldness, which kind of brings me to my next question to you guys. We all know that the way that you increase your boldness is, one, you get in the Word, but also you pray. So can you guys give us kind of like some insight into how you're praying for the election, and maybe to help other Christians who are probably like, well, I've never thought about that. I didn't even know you could pray for your country. I didn't know you could pray for the outcome of an election. What are some tips that you guys have, or something that you can share about how you can pray for this election? Because obviously prayer, we know, works. And what better way to see an outcome come in your favor than to invite God into the equation?
So I've been praying for a lot, but one of the things that I'm really praying for is